And we're live. Okay, hey everyone, welcome to the show and tell for today. I'm gonna talk about ChatGPT, pair programming with ChatGPT, and how it can be used for a software developer or someone in the IT industry. Just a sec. Okay. So first, what is ChatGPT? So ChatGPT is a AI-powered chatbot. Basically, you can input some text and it returns some text back to you. It's developed by OpenAI, launched in November 2022. It's already estimated to have around 13 million daily unique users, which is quite a lot. Estimated to have around 100 million active monthly users, and because of that, it's often offline, or it's like super slow to use it because there's so many people using it. It's also the fastest growing consumer application in history, so it beat like Netflix, it beat Instagram, all these kinds of super popular app by the amount of growing users in a really record time. So in around 2 or 3 months, it can understand and generate natural language text based on input. So we ask it something, we get a response back, and then it remembers the context, and we can iterate with that and either learn something or just iterate some ideas. So let's ask ChatGPT. I will not ask him live because right now it's quite busy, so we might have technical issues. So I have this screenshots prepared in advance, so I will just show that now. So I asked, what is ChatGPT? Can you explain? And he explained like in some buzzwords like I'm this, I'm that, but this is too much text, and let's say that we want a simplified version of that. So we say, can you explain it like I'm 5? So yeah, of course we can. I'm a smart robot and I could talk like a human and I can understand what you say and I will tell you what you want. Okay, great. But this is still a lot of text. So can you summarize this in a shorter point? So we have 3 bullet points, and this is quite useful. For example, if you're reading a lot of documentation or any long text, you can summarize it, so we can save quite a lot of time and can give you the base what you want to. But okay, what can I do with it as a software engineer? Here are some use cases, for example. So I can generate code based on natural language inputs. What does that mean? So for example, sometimes when I'm doing some project, I cannot really express or ask Google what exactly I want. So I want to say it in some simple words, and he will give me code examples, and I can iterate on that. Also, it can do code reviews and suggestions. So for example, I can input some code I put in, and it will tell you what's wrong with it, what's good with it, give you examples, update it, and maybe give me some best practices. I can also debug. For example, I have a bug which is super hard to solve, or I don't know how to solve it. So I can just put my code in and he will give me some hints. I can learn new things. So for example, I'm reading some documentation, I hear some term which I don't understand, and I can say, okay, what is this? Can you explain it in some simple terminology? I can use it for knowledge sharing. So for example, I can be preparing a talk or a presentation, and I have a lot of stuff I have to put into, but not enough of time. So I can shorten it, or I can explain it so the target audience can understand it better, or maybe even give me options for what content to present. It can be used to generate documentation. So for example, we can have some kind of a project and we want to have either a documentation of the REST API we have, or we just want a README or something like that. It can give us quite a lot of text which we can start with, so we don't have to do it by ourselves. It can generate test cases, so we want to have automated testing. We don't want to do everything by ourselves, but it can tell us what kind of edge cases we might be facing with. Brainstorm ideas. So yeah, I want to set up some new architecture for my project, and I don't know how to start, so I just give him some thoughts and he will tell me what he thinks about it. Summarize long text, already told about it, and of course much more than that. Those are just some examples. So let's go to pair programming. Let's see what it can do. So before, as in this picture, I asked him, would you like to pair program with me? He was not really so excited, but he said he would be happy to assist me. So let's see. So let's say that we're a developer and we want to set up some kind of a REST API with some basic CRUD operations, and we want to use some modern JavaScript framework. Let's see what that does. So it will generate us actually the whole code. So this is some kind of a template using Testify.js, which is a backend framework. And this code was not modified by me at all. So it actually gave us quite a solid start for it. So yeah, we're okay with that. And then let's go further. Let's say we have this API now, we can run it, and now we want documentation. Can you generate documentation? Of course I can. We have a plugin for Fastify for OpenAPI. Here it is. This is just a small snippet because everything doesn't fit. Okay, cool. But let's say that I don't know what is OpenAPI. I never heard of that. So can you please tell me some more about that? What is OpenAPI? It is a specification for describing RESTful APIs, and we could also shorten this or use it in summarize it in bullet points in another language or anything like that, or asking further questions to explain it in more simple terms. Now we have the API, we have documentation. Let's add some best practices. So I've heard that adding a linter is a good practice and it can help us to keep some code quality and maintainability. How can I do that? Here you go. Install ESLint, configure it like this. It gives you steps, and this is the configs. This is how I run it. So everything is basically done for you. So this saved up quite some time. We have a linter. Now we want unit testing. Which framework to use, how to start, how to set it up. We say we want unit tests, and she will tell us, okay, we have Jest, which is a popular framework for testing, for unit testing, and it will prepare us some kind of a boilerplate to start testing our API. It creates some basic tests, but we can also ask it later to prepare some more advanced test cases or to document it even further. What else can we do? Let's say that we join the Google Cloud Platform competence group and we're playing with Cloud Run and we want to deploy this to Cloud Run. And we heard that this is great. So how can we do this? Will tell us. So if you want to deploy it to Cloud Run, we need a container first. If you want a container, we need to build a Docker image and push it to some kind of repository and then run it with Google Cloud. And this is how I do it. But since we know that Node.js, which is used in this image here, 14, is quite an old version, we can just ask ChatGPT based on the context if there is anything wrong with this. So we can ask him, okay, but can you take the latest LTS and optimize it for size? He will say, sure, of course I can. He has limited data because, as they say, his knowledge is what was cut off in 2021, so he doesn't have the latest and greatest information, but solid. So we have the Node 14 Alpine image, which is smaller than the default one, and we can proceed with that. But because we think we're smarter than him, we can ask, but isn't Node 18 the latest version? And he will say, oh, yeah, correct. Of course it is. I will replace your config with that. So we now have the latest node, we have the image, and we can deploy it to Cloud Run. And how do we automate this? So we want linting, build, and deploy be automated with GitHub Actions. Can you do that? And here we on purpose leave the test step out. So we will see if he can add this additionally. And of course, here is the GitHub Action config, which will give you exactly what you want. So we set up the whole application, we run linting, we build the image, push it to repository, and run it with Cloud Run. Of course, we have to also replace some of the credentials, some of the IDs that we use for our project, but it's a solid boilerplate to start with. And because I forgot to add unit tests, I can ask him, okay, but can you add that as well? Because I forgot it in the previous step, and of course I can. So we have an additional step of unit tests here. And now that we have our application, we have it deployed in Cloud Run, we have our documentation on OpenAPI, tests, linting, everything is great, it's working. Now we want a README file. So let's generate some README file, how to set this up, how to clone it. It will do everything for us, how to deploy it. So this is all automatically generated, which is really a great time saver, and it can be iterated upon later. And then let's say that we are Slovenes and Swedes, as we are, and we want this in Slovene and in Swedish. And I ask him if he can do it in Slovene, and he will do it. But it's not the best Slovene, it's not the most grammatically correct, but it's there, it gives you the main idea. So I asked him in Slovene, actually, if he can give us the Slovene and Swedish version, and here is the Slovene version, and here is the Swedish version. I'm not sure if this one is correct, but based on the bullet points and the context, I would say it's quite close. So this can be used to also translate stuff to different languages or explaining certain concepts. If you don't know the English terms well, you can translate it to your local language, which is great. And for the end, we have some fun facts prepared. For example, what Google tried, they fed it their interview questions and it passed the interview for a level 3 engineer at Google, which is quite nice. But then it got stuck because you can get questions such as, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Then ChatGPT is like, yeah, I don't know, I'm an AI. I don't see myself. So yeah. It doesn't have access to live internet, or so they say. So in some examples, it has it. I just talked to Eric today and he said that there's a way, but they claim that it doesn't have it. So they say. It can admit mistakes and even apologize. So even before, when we corrected the Node.js version, it said, oh yeah, you're correct, and it updated the response. And it can sometimes even add some humor to the responses. So here's an example of why is it helpful? What do you want to intro? And he references the joke about the Terminator movie. So tell him where is the John Connors. He goes back into the past and prevent. And then there is one more thing. So whatever you do with ChatGPT, don't just copy paste what he gives you, like read through it and correct it. And one example is, for example, here, where you ask how much is 2 plus 5, and it says 7, but my wife says it's 8. So my wife is correct. So I apologize. And be careful with the responses. Yep, this is it for the ChatGPT pair programming. Thanks for your time. Here is the QR code, and if there are any questions, feel free.
Yeah, well, I wanted to explain why I'm wondering that ChatGPT has implementation. Because I created GitHub repository like days ago, and I did some work, and after I finished it, I pushed everything to GitHub. Then I said to ChatGPT, can you create documentation for this repository? And it was like, the changes were submitted 5 seconds ago.
Yeah.
And it just did it. So this is one tool that probably ChatGPT can go to GitHub and script code that create something out. And the second,
can I just repeat the question? So Eric here is explaining in the audience that he has approved that ChatGPT has internet access because he created a GitHub repository a few days ago, updated it, and then asked ChatGPT to generate documentation from it, and he actually got the results, which means that ChatGPT has access to the internet, or at least some kind of access for a few days back.
Yeah, and then was another post that someone, you can ask ChatGPT to act as the Linux terminal, and then he will point the Linux terminal, and then you can say, okay, now ping Google, and then you can start pinging Google.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a simulation or something, but probably it has connection.
Yeah. So just to repeat again, proof number 2 from Eric. He saw that someone asked ChatGPT to emulate a Linux terminal and then call ping command on Google, and it was pinging it. But I actually tried this today. I said act as a Linux terminal. I tried to do that, and it said no, I cannot do this because I don't have access to the internet. So maybe it was like some kind of a joke or something. I don't know. But yeah, I would have to investigate this further. Any other questions, comments? Maybe from the online audience. Okay, if there are no questions, thank you for your time and have a great weekend, and yeah, see you soon.